Today's lesson is how to use multiplication patterns and properties, adding on to our notes from class. You should have in your notes that the commutative property of multiplication means that you can change the order of the factors and still get the right answer or product. An example of that would be saying that 3 times 2 is the same as, remember that equal sign means is the same as 2 times 3. They both equal 6. Another property that you should have in your notes is the associative property, which states that you can change the grouping of the factors and still get the same answer. For example, if you had 3 times 25 times 4, that would mean that you're supposed to multiply 3 times 25 first. We do the parentheses first, and then multiply that answer times 4. But if we do that, then we end up with 75 times 4. Yuck! Not very friendly, so a math pro would switch the grouping and do this. 3 times parentheses 25 times 4, because yes, then you've got the power of 100. Very, very powerful there. And then 3 times 100. We can do that very, very quickly in our heads and get 300. So the associative property can help us be able to do mental math. We need to still show how we grouped it, and that's why we draw parentheses. Whenever you've got a power of 100, I want you guys to look for that and try to use it. You can even talk in the funny voice. I won't laugh at you. Another property of multiplication that you need to know is the identity property of multiplication. When you see the word identity, you need to think of the word that's related, identical, which means the same thing. So the identity property of multiplication says that you can multiply any number times 1 and still end up with that number. That's something that you learned in 3rd grade, but maybe you didn't learn that that is called the identity property. That means that 3 times 1, you still end up with 3. That means that 3,472,011 times 1 is still 3,472,011. Identity property. Another property that you probably learned in 3rd grade, but maybe you didn't know the vocabulary behind it, is the zero property. I bet you can guess what this one is. Any number times 0 is 0. It doesn't matter how small that number is or how great that number is. Whoop, there we go. The answer will still be 0. That means you have 0 groups of that number. Well, which is essentially nothing. Zip. 0, nada, nil, nothing. All right, we're going to do some practice problems together. This is problem number 1. Write this down. 4 times 12 times 5. Okay, we have 3 factors, which means that we could be using the commutative property. We possibly could use the associative property. Before you dive in and start solving this problem just from left to right, stop and think. Could you use one of these properties to make it more friendly? Yes, you could. If you actually stop and think about this problem, you'll realize that just working from left to right and grouping the 4 times 12 together first is a bad idea, because then you come up with 48 times 5. Ugh, 48 is an unfriendly number. Let's see if we can make a friendly number by rearranging some things. Let's do this instead. 4 times 5 first, and then multiply it by 12. So here, I've used the commutative property by switching the places of 12 and 5. And I've also used the associative property to show that I'm going to group these together and do this first. Parentheses mean do this first. So let's do that. 4 times 5 would be 20, a nice friendly number. And that's the whole point of these properties, to make your lives better. 20 times 12. Okay, let's use place value patterns here. Let's do our fast fact and then cheat with zeros. 2 times 12 is 24. There's 1 0 in the factor, so I place 1 0 in my answer and get 240. That is something that you can do in your head. However, you need to notate it so that I know what your thinking was. Let's do another one. All right, another one. 20 times 5 times 8. Before you just start multiplying from left to right, think about how you might be able to use the commutative property or associative property to make your life better. What you should realize is that we have something here, something very important here. We have, dun, 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 the power of 100. 20 times 5 is 100. We should start there. Yes, the power of 100. So we should draw parentheses to show that we have associated these two factors and we're doing this first. Then we can quickly do 100 times 8 is 800 and be done with the problem. Wow, that was fast. These properties can make our lives better. Number 3, 9 times 4 times 25. Okay. Before you jump in and start solving from left to right, start thinking about the numbers. 9 times 4 is 36. Ugh, do I want to multiply 36 times 25? Not really. Could there be a faster way? Yes, and it is called the power of 100. If I did 4 times 25 first, that gets me 100. So what property do I need to use in order to do something first or group them together? The associative property there. Okay, so 4 times 25 is 100. Now I can multiply 9 times 100 and get 900. Quickly. I love these properties. Wish they had taught it when I was in school. Otherwise, I would be struggling to do 36 times 25. Not so fun. Number 4, 2 times 66 times 50. Before you dive in and start multiplying 2 times 66 and getting a very unfriendly number that then you have to multiply by 50, use your properties. Can you change the order around? Can you group two factors together? Is there a power of 100? See if you can work this problem on your own. Maybe changing the order, maybe using parentheses to show what you want to do first, to see if you can come up with the answer. And then you can check back with me. Press pause now. All right, hopefully you notice that with the 2 and the 50, you have the power of 100. I really wish I had an echo effect I could put on my voice. That would be so epic. Let's sigh. So 2 times 50 gets 100. So I'm definitely going to want to rewrite this problem so that 2 and 50 are next to each other. So maybe I could switch places with the 2 and the 66, or the 66 and the 50. Either way you did it should work. So if I go 2 times 50 times 66, I've used the commutative property so that I can get my friendly factors next to each other. And now that they're next to each other, I need to show that I'm going to do this part first. 100 times 66 equals, well, don't freak out, just cheat with zeros. 1 times 66 is 66. I've got 2 zeros in my factors, which means I place 2 zeros in my product. And need to take care of my comma too to show place value. Commas count. Final answer. All right, here's your task. Scramble 3 factors of your choice, you pick them, so that they would be unfriendly to multiply from left to right. So pick 3 factors and arrange them so that they're unfriendly. For example, I might write 25 times 16 times 4. That would be unfriendly to do from left to right. 25 times 16, ugh, unfriendly. And I'm probably going to get an unfriendly number that then I have to multiply by 4. Very unfriendly. But here's the catch. There needs to be a friendly trick using either the commutative property, the associative property, or both. So you need to pick 3 factors very, very carefully. Maybe you have some factors that get to you the power of 100, so that if someone were to stop and think about the problem, they could rearrange it or regroup things and work in a different order and be able to solve it super, super quick. Tomorrow, you will be trading with someone in class. You will give them your unfriendly left to right problem, and they will solve it using commutative property, associative property, power of 100, whatever you've set up to be the friendly trick. So choose your 3 factors very carefully, scramble them in an unfriendly way from left to right, knowing in your head and smirking to yourself that there is a friendly, better, quicker way to solve it, and hoping that someone can figure it out tomorrow. That's it for your task. Enjoy and be clever. Mwahaha.